Your Liberal government for 10 years has the worst track record on immigration, on housing, on inflation, on crime. But doesn't it embarrass you to ask Canadians for a fourth term of office after the worst Liberal record?
I've just become leader.
Yeah, just became leader. Thank you for your patience. We're back. We've got a show for you. Coming at you live from the nation's capital in Ottawa. You do a live show, sometimes you have complications, and that's what we had. But we're back and we're ready to go, and we'll be back in mere moments.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, please like the station. We're beating the YouTube suppression, and subscribe. We're getting closer to that 50,000 mark. Thank you for your support, and welcome back again to another episode of Stand on Guard. We're talking about the French language leaders debate last night, which had some very interesting moments. And what do I mean by that? The independent media stole the show. The independent media stole the show. And CBC was really, really upset about this. Let's watch.
Leaders spoke post-debate in those scrums. What did you hear from those scrums?
The post-debate scrums were dominated by right-wing media groups who flooded leaders with questions on topics unrelated to the debate. One did ask Carney if he felt Trudeau was a good prime minister. Carney said that he was, and that they have shared values, including taking care of Canadians, reconciliation, and equality.
I'm curious what stood out to you, because at one point, when some of those last questions came up, I just checked to make sure, yeah, no, we're in Canada. Because the identity politics questions have not emerged much.
This happens on the same day that the United Kingdom court ruled that woman and sex refer to biological woman and biological sex. True North is a very right-wing website, and there have been issues in the past with who gets allowed into these scrums and who's allowed to ask questions of the leaders. The commission, Debates Commission, was the one who decided that these people allowed to come in and ask these kinds of questions. So there you go.
All right, just watch.
These people were allowed to come in. These people, it's not even a media outlet, according to this so-called reporter. It's a website. True North is just a website. And they shouldn't have been there as far as these people are concerned.
Watching it, having watched the debate, David, you know, the debate was one type of conversation. This feels very different.
I think the debate commission is going to need to be accountable for what's kind of happening here. They moved the time of the debate the day before. They kicked the Greens out the morning of, and they've opened up the scrums and the press access to a bunch of groups who sometimes are registered charities or have been defined by their owner as not actually a journalistic organization, or have been ruled by the federal court to not be a journalistic organization. And in an election like this one, with very substantive debate on very substantive issues, moderated very well and executed very well by all the leaders, this is where this is going. I think I would like an explanation as a journalist.
Anything of substance that you heard there, policy-wise, or that you've heard tonight that you hadn't heard before?
Not in any of these scrums, because they are being taken over by other agendas, right? And not, I think, necessarily helping a broad swath of voters. Some people maybe do want to hear some of these questions and answers, but broadly, I don't think they represent sort of what the ballot box question is about. We can talk more. Yeah.
All right.
So unacceptable to Rosemary Barton, unacceptable to CBC. These registered charities, what are they talking about? What is he talking about? This is a smear campaign against anybody that's not a part of the legacy media mafia. And believe me, try to get parliamentary accreditation if you're not part of that media mafia under a Liberal government. It's virtually impossible. And that is what they want. That is exactly what they want. Here's an interesting answer to Rebel News, which, of course, is that a registered charity? I thought it was a media outlet. It is.
Reid for Rebel News.
Yes.
We've seen the NDP tonight refuse to take questions from independent journalists. The Liberals have gone one step further. The Carney campaign has called the police on independent journalists. Trudeau before that brought in C-18, C-11. The Liberals are promising a revamped version of the Online Harms Act. What would a Conservative government do to ensure the independence of the press and protect Canadians' right to have access to information and hold their politicians to account?
We are the only party that's willing to protect freedom of the press, of all the media. And we will also repeal C-11, the censorship law. We will remove the censorship of Canadian news on web platforms like Facebook and Instagram. We will fight back against any kind of Orwellian online censorship law like the one that the previous Liberal government instituted. It was designed.
I'm not sure if Pierre Poilievre, what he means by instituted, because Bill C-63, of course, did not pass. It died when the parliamentary session died, and it actually died with prorogation. But I hope and pray he's not going to introduce a Conservative version of Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, because it's inherently evil.
Trying to create the possibility of preemptive arrests of people, where you could be arrested if you were suspected of sometime in the future planning to say something harmful online. You could be under a peace bond. I mean, it really is Orwellian. And I note that many people across the spectrum have spoken out against this censorship. Even someone like Margaret Atwood, not known to be a conservative, has said that this kind of censorship is not only bad for democracy, but inhibits artistic expression. So I stand for free speech, and we will respect the right of Canadians to have access to the media that they choose.
My follow-up, Canada's suffering the most violent anti-Semitic crime wave in history.
Yes.
There have been shootings, fire bombings, even a riot right here in Montreal. But not all of this anti-Semitic hatred and incitement rises to the high level of a criminal code offense. Do you believe that foreign nationals, that is, people who are not Canadian citizens, should be deported for participating in these hate marches or other pro-Hamas activities that don't rise to the level of a crime?
Well, what I have said is when there is a crime involved, including crimes of vandalism, that visitors to Canada should be deported. You simply can't come here and firebomb a Jewish bakery or someone's home or smash windows out of a political riot and expect to stay in this country if you are on a visitor visa. We will be bringing in tougher laws to penalize those who are permanent residents and citizens who break laws and harm our communities. But look, this is the disintegration we have witnessed after the lost Liberal decade. Everybody is divided. This group is divided against that group. There is crime and chaos in our streets. The Liberals have promoted this division by saying one thing to one group and then exactly the opposite to a different group. We had a tradition in this country before this government where you could come from places, the conflict-ridden places in the world, and you would leave the fight behind. You might have a debate about the politics of that place when you sat down in a coffee shop in Montreal or Toronto, but it never overflowed into street violence. We need to get back to that. You should know, we welcome people to this country. Sure, bring your culture, bring your traditions, bring your family, but do not bring foreign conflicts onto our streets. We're going to have peaceful streets again, and we're going to be united. All of us should consider ourselves Canadian first and put foreign divisions behind us.
How many times have you wanted a prime minister to say precisely that? Leave the hate, leave the violence back where you came from. If you come to Canada, don't bring it with you. I think this is a profound statement from Poilievre. We really needed to hear this. Let's hear it. I'm going to move back to an independent media a little while. I want to show you.
Follow up, if I may. Your entire campaign does seem to be predicated on putting you in the front and hiding the people that stood in lockstep with Justin Trudeau for the last 10 years. You're kind of hoping that Canadians won't connect the dots, that the people standing behind you in your caucus walked in lockstep with him. Regardless of what you say right now, Stephen Guilbeault made the carbon tax's life work. The man that moved Paul Bernardo from a maximum security prison is now your chief of staff. I'm wondering how you reconcile this and how you can trust their judgment when they thought those ideas were good ideas.
I'd say a couple things to that rather odd question. First is that
people that stood in lockstep maximum security prison is now your chief of staff.
Now, why is that an odd question? Excuse me? Why is that an odd question?
First is that the candidates in this election for the Liberal Party, I mean, you go and see when I make an announcement. I don't think I've seen you at any of them, but next time you can come. And you will see a wide announcement. I don't think I've seen you at any of them, but next time you can come. And you will see a wide range of the candidates that are there presenting themselves.
Alex Sultan with True North. If you thought my friend's question was odd, you're going to love this one.
I'm glad you self-assess that. Okay.
How many genders are there?
There, in terms of sex, there are 2. Thank you.
My follow-up question then, do you believe that women, biological women, have the right to their own spaces, their own sports, their own change rooms, their own prisons, their own homeless shelters?
I think this is Canada, and that as a general objective, yes. But we work in where we value all Canadians for who they are, and we'll continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Now, you ask yourself this: how is it possible for a man to be this inarticulate and supposedly leading in the polls? That was a dreadful answer. At least he recognizes there's 2 genders, but there's some kind of objective he wants to achieve to make biological women feel safe. But he's not quite sure what that is. And he wants to accommodate everybody so they won't be safe. Incredible response. But that's what we come to expect from Mark Carney, the manufactured candidate. And here's the latest poll from Abacus. This is happening. I can't wait to see the results on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when the results of these 2 debates are baked in. You're going to see the Conservatives overtake the Liberal lead, even in these polls, which I believe are fraught with difficulties. And I've said that before. I think they're probably talking too many people in the 60 and over age group. And I think that's probably the reason for these numbers. Now, is Mark Carney really that popular? I don't believe so. Let's listen to some more of that debate last night.
And we need to get started so that we can get the housing market working better with a reduction in bureaucracy at the municipal level and in fees. But we are proposing a new institution, Build Canada Homes, which is going to build affordable homes using lumber from Quebec, using lumber from British Columbia, using Canadian wood, and using new Canadian technologies. We are going to create a new industry.
It seems to me, you say 500,000 units? I mean, I could say 800,000, 400,000. Where is this coming from?
You know, if I can have 35 seconds, we need to add funding of $25 billion for the development of affordable homes and $10 billion for...
Mr. Poilievre, you haven't costed your objective.
Yes, we will, in our platform, which is going to come out in a few days. But Mr. Carney, you're...
With a reduction...
sorry.
Liberal decade, when you were the economic advisor, the cost of housing has gone up
of England,
and you inflated the cost of housing then too. You have a terrible record in England for real estate costs there, the real estate prices. The problem is that the Liberals want to build bureaucracy. They want to balloon bureaucracy by creating new departments, new bureaucrats. We don't need more bureaucrats. We need more homes, more new doors on new homes for young families. The reason why housing has become so expensive today is because of taxes and bureaucracy. I will eliminate the GST on new homes. I will incentivize cities to free up land and accelerate permits so that we can build, and build your home.
Mr. Singh, then Mr. Carney.
Let us talk records. Mr. Poilievre, you were a housing minister. How many homes did you build?
Over 200,000.
I'll tell you, 6. You built 6 homes.
200,000.
6.
200,000.
We cannot believe what
you
you're
asked
saying.
the question. Can I answer it?
We cannot believe Mr. Poilievre. He only built 6 homes.
200,000.
When he was in power.
Can I answer?
We know the answer.
So apparently, Jagmeet Singh can't really count higher than 6, and he has to use his fingers to count that high. But of course, that myth has persisted. It was always being brought up in the question period that Pierre Poilievre only managed to have 6 houses built under the Harper years. And of course, that's been a manufactured Liberal and NEP talking point for quite some time. And let's listen to a bit more of this incredible debate.
I'll come back to that in a minute, but let's let Mr. Poilievre conclude because you were having a conversation with Mr. Carney.
Mr. Carney, in 2020 and 2021, you said that inflation wouldn't happen and that it would have been a good thing if it did. You were quoted in the media and you even advised Justin Trudeau to print money, and that's what caused our inflationary crisis. You're just like Justin Trudeau. You have exactly the same policies, the same approach. We need change. And you, Mr. Carney, you do not embody change.
You represent the ultra-rich.
Mr. Poilievre is not Justin Trudeau. I'm not Justin Trudeau either, okay? In this election, the question is, who is going to succeed? Who is going to face Mr. Trump?
Same parties, same ministers, same caucus, same ideology, same hostility against Quebec. It's not just because the leader changes that the philosophy will magically change overnight.
You are all proposing, or just about all of you are proposing tax cuts. We'll see them up on the screen here. Mr. Carney announced that on the first day of the campaign. Mr. Poilievre's been announcing them for a long time. So for a couple earning $90,000 a year, you can see the numbers up here, $1,299 in savings for the Conservatives, $1,011 for the NDP, $577 for the Liberals. And the cost of those measures is really what I want to underline here. Mr. Poilievre, you're spending more on tax cuts than the NDP or Liberals. Now, you've all arrived here this evening with no costed financial plan. It's been a long time since we've seen that at the time of the leaders' debate, the leaders don't have a costed plan. So we don't know how you're going to pay for these tax cuts. Now, I'm going to be careful how I word this, but don't you think it's irresponsible to Canadian voters to do this? Mr. Carney, you said you've got the numbers, but where's your costed plan?
As I've just said, we'll be presenting our costed platform this weekend.
But why not earlier at an event?
There are 10 days left in the election campaign. It's about the same thing as Mr. Poilievre, as I've seen. And it is going to be costed, and the operational budget will be cleaned up. We'll balance it in 3 years, but at the same time, we will be investing in Canada and in Canadians.
Mr. Poilievre, where would you make the cuts? This comes back to my earlier question to Mr. Carney. In terms of the costed plans, what do you have to hide? Will transfers to provinces go down, for example?
We're going to cut consultants. Believe it or not, a Canadian family is spending $1,400 in federal.
I just want to note here that during his testimony to a parliamentary committee, a former lieutenant general who was the son of two defense ministers and who was the chief Liberal whip in the early days of the Justin Trudeau regime, talked about the fact that the federal government is spending more on consultants. And that was Lieutenant General Leslie, if I forgot to mention his name. They're spending more money on consultants than they are on military equipment, which, of course, a huge portion of it they've given away to Ukraine. And this is what Poilievre is touching on. The amount of money this Liberal government has wasted on consultants and hiring more layers of bureaucracy.
Tax just to pay for consultants. That's been a 100% increase. I'm going to cut consultants. Secondly, we're going to cut the cost of bureaucracy through attrition. People will be retiring, and we don't need to replace all of them. We can slowly, gradually reduce the cost of the bureaucracy. Third, we're going to pass a dollar-for-dollar bill. For every new dollar in spending, there will have to be a dollar in reduced spending. And we are going to generate $70 billion more in revenues.
And Mr. Carney don't have a costed plan that we've seen.
No, they don't. Isn't it strange that nobody has a costed plan at this stage in the election campaign? Here we are, like 10 days away. And they're not talking about even getting to it until we're a week away. Interesting. There were other moments, and of course, a lot of people going back to 1984, and I don't mean the book, because I usually do when I talk about 1984. 1984 was election year in Canada. It was John Turner was the golden boy of the Liberal Party, just as Mark Carney is being packaged right now. John Turner came out of retirement, and he was known as a blue Liberal foe of Pierre Trudeau, and he came back expecting he was going to be prime minister after the election against Brian Mulroney. And a lot of people say it fell apart for John Turner during the English language election debate, where Brian Mulroney had him on the floor over a patronage appointment, a number of patronage appointments that Turner had approved that were made by Justin Trudeau before he left office. And when Turner became prime minister, unelected prime minister, just like Mark Carney, he approved these patronage appointments. And I remember very clearly Brian Mulroney saying, "Sir, you had a choice. You had a choice." That was his moment in the debate. And this might be the same moment for Pierre Poilievre versus Mark Carney.
Vous étiez le conseiller économique à Justin Trudeau. Est-ce que vous niez ça?
Your Liberal government for 10 years has the worst track record on immigration, on housing, on inflation, on crime. But doesn't it embarrass you to ask Canadians for a fourth term of office after the worst Liberal record?
I've just become leader. And
see, he says here, I just arrived. Really? So you haven't been working for Justin Trudeau for the last 5 years? You weren't chief economic advisor to the prime minister's office last October when you went to Beijing? And by the way, got a loan for your Brookfield Assets Management. I don't know what you did for Canada or even for Justin Trudeau during that trip. You did a lot for Mark Carney. But are you trying to tell me you just arrived and he's only been prime minister for, just over a month?
Same members of parliament, it's the same old promises.
And I've been Prime Minister for 1 month. And in that month, we have an agreement with the provinces. We have an agreement with Australia. We have an agreement with France. We have an agreement with the United Kingdom. We have set up negotiations for the next Prime Minister, and that's a decision that people at home are going to make. And we've done all of that. We need to fight in a trade war. We need to fight with counter tariffs. And all the money collected from our counter tariffs will go directly to workers and the businesses that are the most affected by this trade war.
Honda Japan is considering shifting production of the CR-V and the Civic sedan to the United States. The report does not name its sources, but it does cite Canada's retaliatory vehicle tariffs against the United States as being a factor. Here's the line. Canada has hit back with a retaliatory tariff on car imports from the United States, and as such, Honda will examine cutting back on the number of cars exported from the United States to Canada and gradually shifting to local production.
We need to.
All right, so why did I show you that CBC report? This is coming together for you. Retaliatory tariffs are bad news for Canadians. These car plants are getting hit by a double whammy tariff. 25% on the vehicles, 25% on the supplies. That's a 50% tariff. As a lot of people who are real conservatives have said, retaliatory tariffs are like taxes on you and I. When Maxime Bernier was on the show, that's exactly what he called retaliatory tariffs. Pierre Poilievre needs to distance himself very far from retaliatory tariffs because they're not a good thing. They're not patriotic. They're about as dumb as booing the American national anthem at a hockey game. It's not helping the process. And Mark Carney is bragging about how he's going to implement more retaliatory tariffs so we can lose more business in Canada.
To fight with counter tariffs. And all the money collected from our counter tariffs will go directly to workers and the businesses that are the most affected by this trade war. They won't be used for tax cuts the way that Mr. Poilievre is going to do.
You always want to increase them. You're a liberal. We want to cut taxes.
Started as Prime Minister
for a fourth liberal term.
I've just started.
You were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. Have you forgotten that?
That's Mark Carney's John Turner moment. Pretending he just arrived on the scene and he can't remember. His memory's very short. It doesn't go back past, what, March? Seems to be. He can't remember anything last fall. Can't remember much of the last 5 years or 10 years. He does remember he was governor of the Bank of England. He can tell you that. But I tell you this, he's completely inappropriate, untalented, and a grievous error as a prime minister. And I don't think he's going to win. I think tonight will be crucial. The debate tonight will be crucial. And when I come back, some closing remarks about what to expect tonight. Yes, Cal Matin. It was quite a morning. Thank you again for your patience. I will be live streaming the debate tonight because I think this is a moment in Canadian history we need to watch. We need to be there. This is going to be the night the Canadians decided that Mark Carney will not be an elected prime minister. And this is the night the Canadians will decide that they are probably in much better hands under a conservative government, because at least it's talking about reducing taxes in a substantial way. not 1% like Mark Carney is, talking about reducing regulations, talking about setting the economy on fire. That's what Pierre Poilievre is talking about. Mark Carney is talking about more serfdom for the Liberal state. And that's precisely what you're going to get if Mark Carney becomes an elected prime minister with a 4-year mandate. He doesn't represent change. He didn't just arrive a month ago to become prime minister. He's been very much a part of the Trudeau Liberal government, a key advisor. And the dreadful, catastrophic economic record of that Liberal government is in a large part due to the influence, the teachings, and the, shall we say, the Marxist-Leninist philosophy of Mark Carney, both of whom, Marx and Lenin, he says he admires as political thinkers. So that's probably why this country is on the verge of collapse. That's what Mark Carney brought to Canada, and that's what he continues to bring to Canada. Now, we will be live tonight on the show. Please join me. We've got our technical problems under control. We made it. Thanks for watching today. God bless Canada. Godspeed. And I'm